Space is no longer a silent backdrop to terrestrial operations. It has become a central pillar of global security and a contested operational domain. Since the early days of the Cold War, the Alliance has relied on space for communications, navigation, and early warning systems. However, the environment has changed. What was once a sanctuary is now a domain where adversaries seek to deny, degrade, and destroy. In 2019, NATO took the historic step of declaring space its fifth operational domain, alongside land, sea, air, and cyber. This declaration marked a fundamental shift from a supportive niche function to a central pillar of collective defense. As we move deeper into the 2020s, the Alliance is operationalizing this mission through a series of strategic frameworks and multinational initiatives. Today, we analyze the roadmap for this transformation, focusing on 5 critical priorities that will define NATO's edge in the final frontier. Priority 1, strategic policy and deterrence playbooks. Establishing the rules of engagement in a contested domain. The 2019 overarching space policy provided the vision, but the current security environment demands more granular response options. NATO is now developing space deterrence and defense policy playbooks to address specific threats such as non-kinetic interference and cyber attacks. The development of these playbooks is critical for defining red lines and establishing how the Alliance transitions from peacetime to conflict in orbit. In 2021, leaders affirmed that attacks to, from, or within space could invoke Article 5, the Collective Defense Clause. This ensures that a threat to one ally's space assets is viewed as a threat to the entire alliance, provided the incident meets the necessary threshold. Looking ahead, a formal space doctrine is expected by 2026 to provide the military how-to for multi-domain integration. This doctrine will move beyond policy to ensure space effects are seamlessly integrated into every tactical operation on Earth. Priority 2, implementation of the commercial space strategy. Leveraging the agility of the private sector, endorsed in early 2025, this strategy acknowledges that the center of gravity for space innovation has shifted to commercial entities. Commercial strategic suppliers often innovate at a pace that government bureaucracies simply cannot match. The strategy is built on 5 pillars, beginning with transparent partnership frameworks for long-term engagement with industry leaders. Operational integration is the second pillar, embedding commercial capabilities directly into the NATO mission structure. Resilience is found in diversity. By utilizing massive commercial constellations, NATO can maintain connectivity even if high-value assets are targeted. This allows the Alliance to tap into the rapid development cycles of the private sector and stay ahead of emerging threats. Finally, governance and standardization ensure that these commercial systems meet the Alliance's strict cybersecurity and technical requirements. Priority 3, funding and resource allocation. Building a sustainable allied space enterprise. NATO is moving toward a broker model, where it facilitates the collective capability of its members rather than owning a fleet. The 2025 Industry Forum highlighted a massive €800 billion increase in collective defense spending, identifying space as a high-growth priority. For the first time, the NATO defense planning process includes specific requirements for each ally's contribution to the space enterprise. This uses an effects-based approach, quantifying the specific capability, like bandwidth or resolution, that each nation must provide. This model ensures that the Alliance as a whole has access to the best technology, regardless of which member state owns the physical hardware. By coordinating these resources centrally, NATO prevents the duplication of effort and ensures maximum efficiency for every euro spent. Priority 4, interoperable capabilities and multi-domain effects. Standardizing the way 32 nations operate in space. The Alliance Persistent Surveillance from Space program, known as APSS, is a flagship initiative for multinational cooperation. Through a virtual constellation called Aquila, NATO pools data from both national and commercial surveillance satellites to provide 24/7 coverage. Aquila represents a historic leap in collective intelligence, providing a persistent and comprehensive picture of the Earth's surface. The Starlift project, launched in late 2024, addresses the need for resilient and responsive launch capabilities. If an ally's satellite is compromised, Starlift provides the framework to launch a replacement at short notice from across the alliance. All these efforts are coordinated by the NATO Space Operations Center at Ramstein, which serves as the single focal point for space support. This center streamlines requests for space products and ensures that critical information reaches commanders on the ground in real time. Priority 5. Reaffirming NATO as a space broker, facilitating the collective effort of its members. NATO's role is not to replace national capabilities, but to act as a hub that synchronizes and facilitates them. The Space Center of Excellence in Toulouse, France, is a vital part of this, focusing on building space IQ among leaders. Through specialized training and wargaming, the center ensures that political and military leaders understand the strategic importance of orbit. By promoting international norms and responsible behavior, NATO leads the effort to ensure space remains sustainable for all. This includes advocating for transparency and opposing the placement of weapons in orbit, particularly nuclear capabilities. To fully understand these priorities, we must look closer at the implications of a contested space domain. The rise of hypersonic weapons and the proliferation of dual-use satellites have fundamentally altered the strategic landscape. These systems move at incredible speeds and are difficult to track with conventional sensors, making space-based early warning more critical than ever. Without persistent surveillance from orbit, the Alliance's ability to detect and respond to these threats is significantly diminished. Furthermore, the problem of orbital debris is a growing concern that threatens the sustainability of all space activities. A single collision could create a chain reaction of debris that renders certain orbits unusable for generations. This is why space traffic management and the development of international norms are not just diplomatic niceties, they are operational imperatives. Turning back to the commercial sector, the shift toward new space is driving down the cost of access to orbit. This democratization of space has opened the door for many nations to develop their own capabilities, but it also increases the complexity of the domain. For NATO, leveraging these commercial systems means it can achieve a level of coverage and persistence that would be unaffordable for any single nation. It also creates a security through numbers effect, where an adversary cannot easily disable the alliance's communications by targeting a few large satellites. The new funding model reflects this reality, moving away from capital-intensive ownership toward a flexible, subscription-style access to capability. This broker model allows NATO to pivot quickly as new technologies emerge, ensuring it is always at the cutting edge of what is possible. It also fosters a more competitive and healthy industrial base within the alliance, driving further innovation and reducing costs over the long term. Returning to the Starlift initiative, the ability to rapidly replace lost assets is a key part of NATO's deterrence strategy. If an adversary knows that their attack will only result in a temporary outage that is quickly restored, the incentive to attack is greatly reduced. This responsive launch capability is being developed through a network of spaceports across the alliance, from Europe to North America. It represents the ultimate expression of collective defense, where the launch infrastructure of one nation can support the mission of the entire alliance. As NATO continues to evolve its space mission, its role as a facilitator and broker will only become more important. The alliance is building the institutional and technical foundations for an enduring presence in orbit, ensuring its collective security for decades to come. This is not just about defending what we have today. It is about securing the future of the alliance in a domain that will only become more critical. These five priorities, policy, commerce, funding, interoperability, and facilitation, ensure that NATO remains ready for any challenge. Securing the ultimate high ground is the prerequisite for our modern way of life and the cornerstone of the alliance's enduring strength. This is Gene Botkin with Eleonarda. End transmission. Because this is not really a story about satellites and orbits. It is a story about how we define the boundaries of human cooperation. It is about how the alliance adapts to an infinite frontier where the stakes are as high as the heavens themselves. Watch the next video to see where the alliance goes next as we continue to push the boundaries of collective defense. Always remember, a grand world awaits.